All that shortly, but first to some breaking news coming in right this minute. Ecuador has cut off Assange's communication line in its London embassy is what we are getting in at this moment. We do know that this is the latest as we continue to track the developments when it comes to Assange. The news tightening around Julian Assange. Ecuador has now cut off Assange's communication line in its London embassy. We are awaiting further details on what exactly transpired, but we do know at this point to remember that Assange has been in that embassy for the longest time. This also has been one development which Ecuador has cut off Assange's communication line in its London embassy is the latest that we have for you at this point. Let's go straight across now to our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark, joining us for more on this. Mandy, what more do we know at this point?
We don't know more. It is very much breaking news about the cutting off communications, but it does indicate a level of intention. Certainly, Ecuador has been quite desperate to solve problems having for so very long. It's been years that Julian Assange has taken refuge there. And in many ways, they have asked the UK government to come up with solutions.
All right, we'll just try and reconnect that line with Mandy Clark, our London Bureau Chief. But as we have been telling you, Ecuador has cut off Assange's communication line in its London embassy. The ramifications of that, of course, will be interesting to watch out for. Let's also remind our viewers that the kind of action that has been doing the rounds against Julian Assange, several possibilities and a lot of speculation that has been doing the rounds over the kind of action that could be facing Julian Assange. His communication line has now been cut. Let's go straight across now to our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark, who's been getting us the very latest. Mandy, what do we know? All right, we've lost that line now with Mandy Clark, but just telling our viewers of this continuing development that's coming in. Ecuador has cut off Assange's communication line in its London embassy. That's all we know at this point. Mandy is back with us. Mandy, over to you. What do we know?
That we can extrapolate what this move by the Ecuadorian government means. They have been desperate to have a solution for Julian Assange. They don't want to host him anymore in the embassy. They won't kick him out, but certainly they've made life a little more difficult for him by taking away his access to communications in the outside world. They have been enormously frustrated that the Julian Assange case has not been resolved, and he's been there for many years. It doesn't have any indication that he will be heading out anytime soon, because just recently, last month in the courts, his lawyers pushed for the UK government to drop their arrest warrant for him. Now, he has that outstanding arrest warrant, even though the charges have been dropped in Sweden about an alleged sexual assault. Since he skipped bail and he refused to show up to authorities, that arrest warrant remains. Now, his big worry is that the UK will then hand him over to U.S. authorities who want him to question him over the WikiLeaks scandal that happened many years ago. So he still believes that it's unsafe for him to leave the Ecuadorian government. Clearly, the Ecuadorian government is a bit tired of hosting him. So this is quite a devastating blow for Julian Assange, who has been essentially a prisoner in the Ecuadorian embassy for years.
All right, stay with me, Mandy. Let's also take a look at what the Ecuador government has said. This is a statement that I'm quoting from. The government of Ecuador has suspended the systems that allow Julian Assange to communicate to the outside of the Ecuador embassy in London. The measure was adopted due to Assange not complying with a written promise which he made with the government in late 2017, by which he was obliged not to send messages which entailed interference in relation to other states. That is the justification that's coming in from the Ecuador government of that communication line being cut off. Julian Assange's communication line in its London embassy has now been cut off. Going back across to Mandy, would this be a sign that this is the first step towards his imminent arrest? Does this mean that Ecuador is now buckling under that pressure?
I think there's a level of frustration within Ecuador. I don't know if they're buckling to any pressure, but certainly he had made comments about internal Ecuador politics, and that certainly ruffled quite a few feathers. So they could be referring to that. He also had lots to say about the Trump election. So, it could be a wider view. But what we can take from it is that they want a solution, that Ecuador is kind of feeling like enough is enough. It's doubtful that they will push him out of the embassy, but I think they're looking to make his life a little less comfortable.
A little less comfortable indeed. We're going to leave it there for the moment, Mandy. Appreciate your joining us on that breaking development.